And I hope this mic is good. Fellas, I figured out how trust works. Right? It's cool actually. Like the amount of value this will just add to the system MTT. Pretty cool system. You should learn it. You'll find links in the description, theory, and manual. Manual still being worked on. This is the end manual announcement, I suppose. But yeah, a system has figured out how fucking trust works, which is pretty damn cool. Awesome. It's so awesome, right? The potential for it in the future, awesome. The potential for it right now, awesome, right? So, okay, how does trust work? So to understand how trust works, we need to understand a few principles first, a few concepts first. First of all, the everybody thinks like me. The ETM. No, ETLM. Yeah, the ETLM principle, which goes something like this, right? If you live your whole life, I'm gonna give you an analogy first. If you live your whole life knowing that a house looks a certain way, right? There's a certain structure to it. Then every time you go to a house, you have a certain expectation of how that house will look like, right? Kind of a general idea, right? So now think of this, but apply it to the mind, right? You live your whole life with the most experience being how you think, how you process information, what is real to you. You never live in another person's shoes, truly. You never truly understand how another person processes information, what they're confident in, what they're not confident in, what information is valuable to them, what not. You may have a general understanding externally, and that general understanding may be even useful to you, but you only ever truly understand your own processing. And so people have no other choice but to forcibly believe that in some capacity, subconsciously, everyone thinks like them. And because their own way of thinking is the only way of thinking they have, then that must be the right way of thinking, right? And because they are naturally inclined to be biased towards reality, they have no choice but to think that they are right. On some level. Now, your DI masters might be like, oh no, I'm so wrong in this way, blah, blah, blah. Shut the fuck up. You still think you're right and you still do the same things, right? Like MDI masters will be like, oh, well, actually, I'm so wrong in this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. Sure. Then why do you keep acting on your wrong self? You keep making decisions, right? You're constantly sure that you are wrong. You're constantly mistrusting people. You keep doing the same shit over and over and over again, right? So, yes, you on some level very much do see your weaknesses, but you think that your way of seeing your weaknesses, your way of being is still right. So at the end of the day, it still applies to you. So I don't want to hear any DI minuses in the comments being like, ooh, right? Right, so at the end of the day, the principle you have to believe in and you have to understand for this whole concept to work is everybody thinks like them. That's just the basic concept behind it, right? And so with that being said, that explains a lot in terms of communication. If you understand that the person in front of you thinks you think like them, then they think you operate like them. And so if they think you think like them, then the things that they would do that are trustworthy, that where they would place their trust on, where they would be confident on, are the same things you should do. So the expectation should be similar. You should be like them, exactly like them, think exactly like them. That there are things that we can trust in as a humanity, there are things we can't. Now, what those things are depend on the person, right? And so there are 4 keys to trust. The first key is the immediate. The second key is the order. The third key is the self, and the fourth key is the image, right? Those are the 4 keys, right? And all kinds of people trust in only two of these things, right? Either you do self or image, right? One of the two, right? So let's say you go for self, and then you get to pick one from the other two, which is either order or immediate, right? And let's say immediate because that's me. Okay, so now we understand that everybody thinks like them, right? So that means wherever they would put their trust in, or whichever pack of 2 they pick out of these, right? Which they don't really pick. Evolution picks that for them, but that's a whole discussion for another day. You have to pick as well. You're not really gonna pick it, to be honest, But if you want to market to them, then you have to point it out, right? You have to change something, right? So let's kind of go over, depending on the kind of person we're dealing with, right? I'm going to go through all 4 elements. And if someone is like image and order, then you have to pick both information for image and order. And if you can show that your image and order are in check, then congrats, you just sold that person whatever you want to sell them. It's a very much good strategy. This video could have been much better ordered while we're talking about it. But I like this style of video, so screw you. Love you, man, my bad. Love you. Yeah, so we were forming a relationship with you right now, the viewer. Anyway, right, so how do you form trust? Right. So now that we understand that everybody thinks that you think like them, therefore, if you want to get their trust, you already have the key in their eyes. You just need to use it. Okay, so if the person is a self, we're gonna start going through the 4 different kinds of people. If the person is a self, which is MDI by the way, a self kind of person, then you gain their trust by showing them, maybe over time or something, that you, no matter what happens, no matter how hard life gets, no matter what happens, that you will always be the same person. That your beliefs, that where you are on the position, whatever it be, your positions stay the same over time. That is the trick, right? MDI people do not really like people who shift. They don't like people who are one day something and the other day something. They don't like that. They don't like shifted people, right? They can't trust in that. They can't trust in people who just shift, because that's the thing they trust in, identities. Because they know their identity is stable. That's the structure. That's where things are always gonna stay the same, and that's what they're gonna trust, right? And to trust you, they have to know that, well, they can trust in your identity, right? Because they can't trust in your image. Your image can shift right, left, right? You can say nice things, but not mean nice things. So that doesn't matter to them. You can say mean things and not mean the mean things. Still doesn't matter to them, right? What matters to them is your inner self. Is it solid or not, right? And so, if you want to get an MDI person to trust you, you have to show them in some capacity that you've always been the same person and that all your plans continue to be the same person. Now, that may not necessarily make them trust you. Here's a trick about it. But it will make them respect you it will actually make them trust you on some level, right? So one thing, for example, I've always said is I respect off left, like extreme Stalinists, 100 times more than I'll ever respect centrists, right? And as a self person, as an MDI person, and I said because, well, they hold the same position. They're very clear on their positions, right? It is one way. They're strong about it. So that's very weird terms that I'm using here. But they're unwavering on their beliefs, and they're very clear. They're not contradictory. They're not half-assed. They're not interest-based. Like oh, today I'll do this, and then the other day I'll do this. Sometimes I'll fight for freedom when it's useful for me, but then I'll throw it away, right? No, they're like structure, order, authority. This is the only way. We're making a centralized system, right? I disagree with them, but I trust them more than I would ever trust the shifty centrist who is like jumping from one belief today and then the other belief. I just can't trust that, right? Because how am I supposed to trust you if you doesn't exist the same next day, right? So you cannot be trusted, right? That's kind of how the if you obviously want the other person to fully trust you, then you have to show them you're on the same page, obviously. Because yes, I will trust the Stalinist, but it doesn't mean I'm going to work with the Stalinist, right? I can trust the Stalinist to be the Stalinist next day, and I respect that a lot, but I won't work with them. We don't have the same interests. We're just going to fight till the death. That's just how that goes. So obviously, with that being said, we have to be on the same page, and the same applies for everything, right? Like an MOI person will respect like a horrible dictator who has led everyone in the same path, stuck by his structure all the way till the end, right? An MOI person, right? He showed that there was precedence for it. He showed that there was a future for it and fought for it. They will respect that, but doesn't mean they're gonna agree with the structure you're trying to imply. So remember that, right? That's just basic common sense. Right, so MDI person, you show you're the same person, you show you stick behind your beliefs, you show you are who you say you are, and you show you're just not shifting your image, right? Yourself isn't an image, yeah? There's an actual self, there's an actual solid you, and you stick by very strong values, unwavering values, and nobody's gonna shift that, and they can trust that, and they're gonna respect you. At the very least, they're gonna respect you. That's the very least, right? Okay, so that's the self ahead, okay? Let's go to the image. So image people, they can't trust the self because they don't have a consistent self. Sometimes they believe in this, sometimes they believe in that. Sometimes they're okay with something, but they may shift for something, and it's you that as a virtue, right? Of course. No, for self people, just going back to them real quick, they don't really have a consistent image. Like sometimes they may be nice, sometimes they may be a dickhead. You know, their image is not consistent. They don't really care about it. So they can't trust in your image again because for their perspective, the image is something that's shifty, it's manipulatable, it's a virtue that I can be nice, it's a virtue that I can be mean. But at the end of the day, I can't trust in something that's not solid, right? And so the same is gonna apply for the MDE people, for the image people, right? They are not going to trust in the self because they know in themselves, and everybody thinks like me, I am shifty. I believe in something one day, I believe in something, and that's great. I don't stick to stupid beliefs all day. I realize when I'm wrong, I realize when I'm right, right? It's a virtue to be able to be adaptable as a person, to not be inflexible, to change when life needs you to change. You don't want to be just stupid boulder staying behind a belief that's silly, right? They have to change, right? And that change also comes with a lot of virtues, such as if you need to change people, you have to start with changing yourself, right? And so they're willing to let go of a lot of things. You know, these morals aren't as strong, these things aren't as strong, and because of that flexibility, they're able to produce results, right? So at the end of the day, even if like they have to do something they don't like, at the end of the day, if it pays off in a good result, then who cares, right? I have to work with the horrible people now, and then at the end of the day, I come out as victorious, and the people are gone. That's a better outcome than I will stick by my values like an idiot, and I will never move. And then all of a sudden, the horrible people have won because I couldn't make a deal with them, because I couldn't change myself just a little bit, so that a better outcome could be, right? So MD people view the MDIness as kind of stupidity, stubbornness, hard to work with, right? And they don't really believe in it, right? Because they themselves, they don't have that strong and that stable of an identity. It fluctuates all the time as things need be, and it's a virtue, right? So MDE person, you don't go at them and present your identity as something they can trust in. If anything, they'll view it as an annoying thing, hard to work with, just stubbornness, and it's just bad all around, and they won't really trust it at the end of the day because within themselves, they're not that strong, they're not that stable, they're not, all those things. So, how could that be true for you? So what do you do, right? We talked about what not to do. What do you do in the case of MD person? Well, you present them with a stable image. You're always one way. Your image has always been the same. It will always be the same. The way you've been leading people, it's always been the same, always will be the same, right? The image is constant. The presentation is constant. And they can expect that, and they can trust in that, right? The image, the presentation. And your parents have probably already given you a lesson on this, because a lot of MD people turn up to be parents, right? And these kind of like a parent-to-parental thing, right? So, presentation, the way you present things, right? Nobody cares about your identity because it shifts. I don't care about your beliefs. What I care about is your image. Are you someone who has a strong image, who will do anything to protect it, anything to keep it the way it is, and to keep it for what it is? If that's the case, if there's a strong, consistent, solid image, then at the very least, they'll respect you. At the very least, they'll respect you. Maybe they won't agree with you, right? Maybe you're a horrible, terrible person and you have a horrible image, but it's constant, it's consistent. Well, at least they'll respect the fact that you've kept that up, right? If you agree on the image, if you're both kind of for the same mission kind of thing, well, then you got their trust, right? So image, presentation, and the actions you put out forward, not the inner, because the inner shifts. Nobody trusts that. So that's the image people for you, right? A lot of the times, MDI people get in conflicts because MDI people don't really believe in the self in that way. MDI people are like, no, it doesn't really matter what happens on the outside all that much, because what matters is the intent, right? If you have a solid intent, if your intent is good, then I trust in that. How it presents itself, well, that shifts, and that's fine. You can fuck up there, right? Nobody really cares. That's fine. I still trust in you. But NA people don't work like that. They don't really care about intent in that way. They care about presentation, right? Because how am I supposed to trust in your intent? That's something that shifts, that changes, right? Because that's how mine works. What they trust in is presentation. You have a constant image, a constant presentation. Your actions show always for that image. Always for that image. If that's the case, then I can trust you. But if the case is your image, I cannot trust in it. Sometimes you're playing good, sometimes you're playing bad, sometimes you're faking it. Blah, blah, blah. Nope, we're not having it. We're not having it, right? Pretty big distinction there, right? So you gotta figure out, right, if you want to sell it, or you're selling it to a salesperson, because then you have to reinforce this common shared MDI, right? Or the faking MDI you're making, right? If you're an MDE person. You have to show that you've been consistent, you've been on the same goal, you've been blah, 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 blah. You've always been you and you will always be you, and they can trust in that. If that's the right. For an MDE person, show that you've always had a consistent image, you've done everything to protect that image and everything to perpetuate that image, you've led people in the right way, you've guided them, and nothing will change that. Again, that's where you go for strength. Now, I'll go to the weaknesses in a bit, but let's hop over to order versus immediate. So for order people, what is in the moment and what is in the near future are relevant, because that changes. What is in the moment right now will change at any moment. It's not consistent, it's not trustworthy, it doesn't tell me if you've been good before, it doesn't tell me if you will be good forever, it doesn't tell me anything. And even if there's small little possibilities that will lead you for somewhere good or somewhere blah blah blah, I don't care. That all changes. That doesn't matter. What matters is what has stayed and what will stay. Legacy. So what MOI people or order people trust in is precedence and a clear outlined future. An order that is clear. Like we have shown that our product or I have shown that my product or whatever it is has a market, it's been stable, there's a precedent for it, that it's been for a very long time, and there is a clear outline and very easy to believe future that will stick on forever till the day I die and your grandchildren die. My product will still forever be needed. If you can present your product like that and you can make people believe in that are MOI, then congratulations. You have just sold an MOI person, right? They care about precedent, they care about legacy, they care about order. So for an MOI person, that's how you present something. You don't present them by being like, oh, well, we have clear returns, we have clear money that is right here, right now. There's a clear potential, a clear path we can take right now in this moment. Sure, that may be true, but for them, the moment changes at any moment, and these things cannot be trusted. What can be trusted is a precedent and a clear outline, long-term plan and future. So yeah, that's how you go for a order person. But what about an immediate person? For an immediate person, just because something has been in the past working doesn't mean it will still work. And even if there is a clear outline for how it's going to work in the future, again, doesn't mean that this is the right moment, doesn't mean that I have anything to believe in you right now, right? What I will need is immediate evidence of this actually working right now, not just like working right now, because just because it worked doesn't mean it's gonna work now. It doesn't work, it's gonna work in the future, right? And just because it's hypothetically gonna work in the future and there's a clear way why it's gonna work in the future doesn't mean you have what it takes right now to take it. Doesn't mean that right now is the right time to do whatever you're planning to do, right? And doesn't mean that there are clear opportunities and clear things in the moment to branch out with, right? That's all not there. So what matters for an immediate person is here is clear evidence right now that whatever I'm doing is working right now, and there is clear immediate future we can jump over to and invest in a way, right? Like I can show you right now in this moment, not any past thing which doesn't mean anything, not any future which could not mean anything. No, right now, immediately, I can show you that whatever you want to trust in is present and has very obvious, clear, immediate future consequences. And that's how you get the trust of an MOE person. You don't talk about a past, you don't talk about a future necessarily. Those things all can change. We've seen things in the past, they failed, they worked out well, but then they end up failing. We've seen things that had very clear outlines, but were ahead of their time, were before their time, and they failed, right? So just because you have a president, just because blah, blah, blah doesn't necessarily mean anything. If I don't see that right now, immediate and clear immediate future, if that's not present, then I'm out. Can you see I've been watching Shark Tank for a while? So yeah, those are the 4 keys of trust. You just have to figure out which two of these four does the person have, and then you have to give in for them. That's all you need to do. That's all you need for someone's trust. It's really that simple. Now let's talk about the dark side of this. For shits and giggles, if you want to make someone feel insecure or something, right? Usually, what I would say is attack their feminine spot, right? That's an obvious clear win, right? Like you tell them, oh, your image hasn't been clear. Oh, nobody can trust you. You don't have control over the narrative. Let's say someone who's MDI MOE, right? You don't have any clear control of the narrative. So like that would be self and immediate. You don't have any control over the narrative. Your past is kind of been horrible. You've not been having control of it. I don't believe you will have control of it. I don't think you believe you will have control of it. You're just kind of lost as a person that way. You can attack them in that way, right? Or if we go the other way around, right? If we want to go for someone who's image, MDE, and order, MOI. Oh, well, I don't know if I can trust in you. You've been shifted as a person. There is no real values to stick behind. You don't really have a backbone. There's nothing to really trust there. You just have an image, but not even you really believe in it, to be honest. It's like you don't really believe in much of anything. You don't really have that much of a conviction, right? How can I trust in that? Plus, then the moment is shifty right now, right? Sometimes you go up, sometimes you go down. I'm not sure if there's quite a clear potential right there in the moment, right? Yeah, sure, there's been precedents, and yeah, sure, blah blah blah. But right now, in the immediate moment, and the clear immediate future, well, you're failing, my guy. Like, you're not successful at all, and you don't know if you trust in these things. You're considering it. There's so much doubt in you. I'm not sure if it's trusted. You can go to that approach, and that's pretty functional. But if you want to go for the kill shot, you feminize the masculine function, which I've always said is a stupid attempt because it's so hard to do, and it's such a dead shot, and so you're probably gonna fail in comparison to the much more guaranteed feminine function attack. But if you manage to pull off a masculine destruction, then that's a pretty big hit. It's a pretty big risk, but pretty big hit. So you would have to show that they've been failing to fulfill the things that they would need to trust in someone else. Like the things I just said about like MDI, for example, you say about MDE. Like you've been failing to control your people. You've been failing to guide them. Your image, no one trusts in it, right? You don't have any control over it. Nobody trusts in it. Like there is no image. Like the order you've been setting, well, I can think of so many examples in the past where you failed and have been disastrous, right? And your future, you don't know if it's even clean. You don't know if it's even. Nobody knows. Nobody believes in you anymore. Nobody believes in where this is going. Nobody does, and you can't change it. It's a pretty bold move, right? But you tried, and if it worked, if you hit it in the right time, then brother, you've just destroyed a person. You've just exterminated a person. Same goes for MDI, right? If you can show them, hey, I couldn't trust you. You're pretty shifty as a person. There is no real values behind there, right? You didn't really stick by your values like you said you would. You keep changing as a person, right? And right now in the moment, what do you have? You're broke. You're a bum, right? There's nothing to show for the moment right now that you have anything at all, and you're nothing right now. There is no consistent identities. There's no consistent right now evidence to believe in or immediate future, any potentialities, any monkey branches you can jump on. You're right now nothing. Now, if you want to really go for the kill shot, if you really have the right moment, the right setting, the right everything, why not go for all? Why not go for all? All of these things. If you have like a bingo of them all, if you can attack all these things, then you're a very vicious person. And it's a very vicious moment. But it's also very interesting to know how these things can be used for good. So also there are moments where we can advertise all four things. Obviously, if you have all four things, constant image, a constant self, a constant order, and a constant immediate, of course, who's not going to trust you, right? Who's not going to believe in you? But if you have the four dark side keys, well, I don't know. Don't blame me for whatever happens to the person who used this on. But yes, fellas, These are the four keys of trust, or the four dark keys, depending on which way you go. And if you want to read more about these concepts, just check the description. There's going to be the theory. There's going to be the manual. But yeah, until then, peace out.